Hey, deserving listeners, Tim and Jennifer, let's watch.
Yeah.
Okay. Of course I want to make a move on Jennifer. She's gorgeous. I would love to have sex with her and get intimate with her, but I'm a little scared of her. I don't know what's okay and what's not. And I don't want to do anything that is unrepairable.
Yeah, totally. They just met in person. There's a lot of awkwardness. They've been fighting. She's called him a pussy twice. She's demanded that he break off his relationship with his ex-fiancé, someone he's very much of a friends with and is the mother of his child. And yeah, this is the first day, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm feeling it right now, which makes total sense to me. Who knows what'll happen, but and it also would be fine if either one of them, Jennifer included, were like, yeah, we fought today, but I'd still like to get it on. Let's see how they navigate it.
I can apply them to you.
This is not what I expected. I'm used to another kind of man. My ex is also different from Tim. Like, Latin men are always so loving and so passionate and touching and everything. And he's not like that. It's like I have a girlfriend with me because he wants to put me like this beauty.
So there we go again, calling him a girl, which, I guess she said like a girlfriend. I guess, I don't know. So I wonder if this entire storyline is all going to trigger me around oppressive ideas of what a man is supposed to be and what a woman is supposed to be. We've seen it before, but I'm worried that there's going to be a lot of that, because I don't know if my ideas are very popular. I think that's the problem. It's going to trigger me to say things that I don't know if people agree with. I don't know if y'all are going to go along with me on these ideas of, because, you'll hear me talk about sexism sometimes, and I think that that's pretty well established, that there are phenomena and attitudes of misogyny in our society. They're pretty obvious. We see it in our data and on the show. But the idea of calling men women as an insult hasn't come up on the show yet, I don't think, which is kind of interesting to think about, or at least this explicitly. And again, I want to reiterate, if Jennifer wants to be with a more macho dude, it's totally fine. She can have her preference. And if she's just like, yeah, he's just not the sort of guy I want to date, he's just not the sort of masculine, he's not the version of masculinity I'm looking for, then totally fine. You have your preference, and that's what you're into. But the languaging around this and the insults, right? It's totally okay to have a preference, but you don't have to insult. If someone came over to my house and they're like, hey, I brought a DVD. Well, we don't have DVD players anymore, but let's say someone did, and I did have a DVD. They're like, hey, I brought over Ghostbusters 2 or something. I can say, I don't want to watch Ghostbusters 2 from back in the 80s. From my memory, I remember not liking it. So I could say, I'd be like, I don't like it, but I guess you like this movie, which is fine. I can't say you're a stupid idiot for liking that movie. People will do that, by the way, which is not okay. People can have preferences, right? I can say I don't like that movie. She can say she doesn't like his version of masculinity. You can't look at him and say you're a worthless person and you're not a real man because you're not meeting my preferences. That's what I'm saying with this. And what she is representing is a huge problem around the world that is being taught to young boys, that they have to dominate, they have to be in control, they have to not have emotions, they have to not ask for help, they have to score sexually with as many people as possible, or else they're not, if someone says at the age of, 22 years old, they're hanging out with a bunch of other boys and they're just like, you know what, I just kind of want to settle down with a woman and just grow old together, and I just want to cuddle all night. He'd be laughed at in a certain toxic masculine circle. People would be like, you're a pussy, you're a girl, you're a woman, what's wrong with you? You're supposed to want to score a bunch of babes and never get tied down, because that's the propaganda of the toxic masculine ideal. And she is representing that. and the pain that I see so many people incurring, including myself, by the way. Like, when I was in the 6th grade, I cried like a normal human being when I was sad or hurt. And I was at school, and I was at recess. We were playing a game, and I got hurt. Someone actually threw a bat on accident, and it like hit me in the legs, and it hurt. It was more just scary, and I started to cry. I'm 6th grade. Was at like 11 years old, and I started to cry. And some of my friends who were girls came over to console me, but I considered myself to be, because I was very large. I was very tall as a kid. I was one of the biggest, people in my school, and so I fashioned myself a very tough person. I was captain of the football team, all that kind of stuff. When we would play this game where whoever was it, you would actually tackle the person. And if you tackled the person, then you were it. So we were always just taking each other out. And I loved that game because I loved the violence and the aggression. And we actually have to play it around a corner because the school didn't like us playing, because obviously it was like incredibly violent. It was essentially like tackle football without pads. But I don't know why I'm telling you this. My point is that I cried, and I was incredibly embarrassed. Why? Because of ideas of toxic masculinity, that I can't have emotions and I can't cry. Why can't boys cry? Why can't men cry? It's because it makes them like a woman, makes them weak. And these are as a therapist, I'm here to tell you that notion, among many other toxic masculine notions, are some of the most destructive forces on our planet in terms of mental health and in terms of violence against women and date rape culture. And, so I'm on a soapbox. So anyway, my point is that no one explicitly told me that I couldn't cry. I just absorbed that from, Seattle culture. And I went on a mission to never cry again. And so I actually, whenever I felt like I was going to cry that year, I converted it into anger. I remember I would clench my fist and I'd go, ugh! And I neurologically changed all fear and pain into anger. I didn't, and no one taught me how to do it. I just thought, well, maybe that would solve, because I'm getting all these messages. I can't cry, but I'm crying. So how do I get rid of crying? Well, I have to do something. So I resorted to this thing, and it worked. I didn't cry for years after that. I was midway through my 20s as a therapist, learning like, wait, I haven't cried in a long time. I haven't had tears. How do I get tears back? And I actually had to relearn how to cry. It took years, and now I cry all the time. Which, oh, by the way, I watched Finch the other night with Tom Hanks. Oh, what a tearjerker that was. Boy, love that movie. And that's just one aspect of it. Things are changing. Younger people today are allowed to, younger boys, I've noticed, are, younger than me, men are allowed to cry more often. Things were worse in the past, but we have a long way to go. And particularly in other countries, right? We have, anytime that you see a culture where there is a lot of machismo, you're going to see higher rates of sexual assault. You're going to see higher rates of domestic violence. You're going to see higher rates of crimes against women and sexism and misogyny. So it all kind of gets lumped into the same thing. You can't say, I want all men to not be pussies, but I also don't want men to hit me. It all kind of gets lumped into the same thing because it all means the same thing. You're saying, I don't want you to be a pussy, which means don't let me push you around. Don't listen to me, and don't acknowledge your own feelings. Don't be sensitive. Don't be vulnerable. Well, there's only one venue for your emotions at that point, and that is anger and violence. And so it all comes together. And so you got to get rid of the whole thing. Now, there's nothing wrong with men being leaders, with men being emotionally resilient or something. You don't have to be constantly crying all the time to not be toxic masculine. But anyway, I'm worried that I'm going to get triggered and bother everyone out there with my yammerings, as I'm sure I'm already doing.
Kids and all over my face, and it felt really strange to me to see a man like that. He may be gay, I don't know.
So that's another part of it. So I'll try to be as brief as possible. So there's two things that are main pillars that hold up toxic masculinity. One is, as a man, you cannot be a woman. And two, you cannot be gay. Because gay is basically being a woman or feminine or something, which is ridiculous. You cannot be a woman and you cannot be gay. What's wrong with being a woman? What's wrong with being gay? There's nothing wrong with being feminine, right? We all understand that women are okay people. What's wrong with being like a woman? This whole idea of like you can't be a woman, you can't be gay. And look at you with your makeup or your eye stuff and your manicure. You're a woman and you're a gay and you're not a real man and you're worthless and you're disgusting and there's something terribly wrong with you.
It'd be cold, so you gotta trust me, okay?
Okay.
The face masks are very odd, especially for a man to wear. I mean, I'm aware of that, but it was just a way to get physical with her. I wasn't really expecting more from it, but you never know. I mean, you don't know until you try.
Now, I will say that Tim is taking it like a champ, and that is the masculine. If you did want to be positive masculine, it's like, I am so confident and secure in my masculinity that I can do these other things. I can get a manicure and not worry about your opinion of me because I have confidence in my masculinity. I know I'm a man. I don't need to prove to you that I'm a man. I don't need your approval to know that I'm a man, to know that I'm masculine. Now, there's a whole other discourse here of like, why do we have masculinity and femininity at all? Why do we socialize people in these binary ways at all? That's a whole other discussion that I won't bore you with because I'm sure that it's already boring. But I will say Tim seems to be taking it well. Maybe he's used to it. I don't know.
Yeah, and everybody makes fun of me and tells me that I'm being like a girl, but they work.
You actually are.
Yeah, but I gotta try to stay young.
He's quite feminine, definitely. I can see that. I don't know. I just hope he is really like strong in other ways.
Okay, that's encouraging, right there. That's encouraging. She's saying he is quite feminine in some ways. Okay, it's not calling him a pussy. It's not calling him gay. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, but as far as I know, because I've seen comments that he firmly has said, no, I am not gay. I'm heterosexual. It's fine to be gay, but I'm not. I'm heterosexual. So that's different than saying you're feminine. You have feminine qualities. And she's saying, so she's saying her preference. Like, well, there's some feminine qualities which are, not a big deal. The fact that he likes to wear these eye things. But I hope that he is masculine in other ways. I'm guessing sexually or something. And that's fine. She has that preference. And to hope and to maybe cultivate that is totally fine. You don't have to engage in put downs, and especially you don't have to engage in, toxic masculinity discussion.
Get closer. I've waited so long for this. I cannot believe we're finally with each other. I mean, baby, it's been such a long day, and I'm so comfortable. Like, why don't you just stay?
Yeah.
I'll behave, I promise.
The other thing that is present here is he talked about how when he was, until recently, he called himself the ugly duckling, that he was a nerd and no one really liked him, particularly women. And he sort of recently transformed himself into someone that women would like or something. And, maybe he is nervous. It's like, what am I supposed to do here? But we also hear some language that he might think he's supposed to respect her and not be pushy with sex or something. Anyway.
Okay. I haven't had sex in a long time, so I would love to have sex. But it's just not the right time. I'm not looking for something casual. I want a wife. So we need to work on our relationship. We can form a tighter bond and eventually have sex.
Okay, totally fine. It sounds like maybe she wants more passion and pursuing from him, sexually early, and he is more like, hey, I'd like to work on a relationship, and then sex will follow. Both are fine preferences. They're both entitled to those.
It's very strange to me that he doesn't even try to kiss me. Maybe all the drama with his ex and everything can be stopping him of doing something. But to win my heart, he needs to show me more because he's taking himself to the friend zone.
Yeah, well, he's kind of putting you in the friend zone, to be more specific, which, yeah, I would. It's fine that he has the preference, but you would think that, again, he's fine to have the preference. He's fine to have the preference. But I would think a lot of people in this situation would, upon finally seeing each other in person and then laying down in bed, you'd be like, let's make out. But, everyone can take their time, right? Stephanie and Erica, they took their time. I think we can allow him. Am I involved in toxic? Am I involved in sexism right now? Because I'm just like, wait, come on, Tim, like, go for it. Yeah, because for Stephanie and Erica, it was fine that they took their time, so he can take his time. I know that they break up because Jeniffer. The only reason why I'm watching this is because I'm going back in time because Jennifer's on the dating life, and I know that if Jennifer's dating, then she's not with Tim anymore. So on some level, I guess I'm just watching a train wreck occur, and I guess I'm cataloging or I'm stacking up the incompatibilities, this being another one. That he seems to be the sort of guy who's like, hey, let's take it slow. Let's get to know each other. Let's bond. And then the sex will follow. And she's more like, let's get it on. I want passion. Both preferences are fine. Maybe this is another one of the mismatches that's going to eventually break them up, which I could see. I mean, this sort of incompatibility, particularly the way she was wording it, I could see, especially when you add up all the other issues regarding who he is, which you just have to wonder, like, did you not have a conversation? You've been talking online for a long time. It's like they're, but of course this happens sometimes, if you've ever met someone on Tinder and you're texting and maybe sending pictures, maybe talking on the phone every now and then, it's a very big difference than when you actually meet in person. It could be like, whoa, this is completely different than I imagined. And, so I guess that's happening with them. All right, well, that is for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.